Pastor Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio, your chance to have your say. Today, it's you and your pharmacist, a special today with Nick Kaye is here from Kingsley Muti, the pharmacist. We're talking about the services that pharmacists offer on the Isle of Man, but also what you can and can't do and where the pharmacy fits in the continuum of care, as in meds, the GP, emergency department and what have you. So any question, general question for Nick Kaye, call 66 13 68, text or WhatsApp 166 177, email studio@manxradio.com. Merry Christmas. How are we doing, Nick?
Merry Christmas. Thank you very much for having me back on, Andy. It's great to be here. Doing well, thank you.
Well, jolly good. Well, let's dive straight into it because this is flu season at the moment. And what's the view from the pharmacist?
Yeah, so, I mean, flu season has had a big uptake this year with flu vaccinations. We've certainly seen with some of the news that's going on across with the rapid increase in flu cases, we're certainly seeing a demand on the ground for more flu vaccinations as community pharmacies are a key place where you can get those. I think in our own business we've gone from sort of doing, sort of 10, 15 a week in the last sort of week doing well over 100 because of the increased demand. And obviously with pharmacies you can get them with if you're eligible under Manx Care, but most pharmacies as well offer private vaccinations if you fall outside of that criteria. We've had people travelling, people, worrying about being in airports, those types of things. So definite rise in demand for the flu vaccination because if you get proper flu, it's horrible.
It's a virus, isn't it?
Flu? It is a virus, yeah, it's a virus. And that's why, unlike something like a pneumonia vaccine where you need it if you're over 65 maybe once because it's bacterial, with a virus it mutates much quicker, which is why it's annual for things like flu, COVID, those types of things. So and one of the main differences maybe between flu and a true and a cold would be sort of rapid onset. A flu, you get it sort of, it's quite interesting when you hear people speak. They say, well, I was poorly at sort of 6 o'clock last night, as opposed to it came on for a couple of days. And obviously in those, the people that are elderly and susceptible can actually be life-threatening. So not something to not take seriously, something that's important. And from your pharmacy you can get both symptom management, as you say. It's a virus, so antibiotics won't work for it, but taking either mum's chicken soup or hot honey or those things that we give over the counter to help with the symptoms can be really helpful. Andy.
So where's the bar then from a cold into flu? How do you know that you're going to, as you say, there may be a rapid onset, but is it the chills, the fever? What is it? Yeah,
exactly right. So some of the symptoms are really similar, but it tends to be both the rapid onset with flu and also the intensity of the symptoms. So you tend to feel the fever, as you say, is more intense. The symptoms, the headache, those types of things are more intense. If you speak to people who say I had flu, they definitely don't want to have it again. There's a definite difference between flu and a cold. And again, there's other things which all the advice which public health, Manx Care and pharmacies would give out around making sure you've got good sort of nasal hygiene, coughing into tissues, and using the crooks of your arm if you can't have a tissue, just to stop those sorts of spreading is really important, Andy.
And when does it become pneumonia?
So pneumonia then is a bacterial infection which tends to come in after the flu virus. So the virus, whether it be cold or flu, can sort of make the lungs more susceptible or other tissues more susceptible to getting a secondary bacterial infection. So pneumonia tends to be caused sort of as a secondary infection after a cold or a flu. So
okay, I got a message in from Maureen who just says, when are the slimming jabs going to come down in price?
I would love to say that. I think last time, Andy, I confessed that I am actually a patient. So this is not only as somebody that prescribes them in the pharmacy, somebody that runs the clinic, but also as a patient. This is something that's very pertinent to me, Andy.
Before you go on,
yes.
Why did you decide to take, which one are you on, Mounjaro?
Yeah, I'm on Mounjaro, yeah. So, Andy, I actually don't mind talking about that because people have asked me about it in the past. So I was 50 last month in November. I am a dad to 5 beautiful children from 21 to 4. I know I'm too old to have a 4-year-old, but that's what COVID did for us, Andy. And actually, it was time for me to take a little bit more control of my health. I'd gone up and down in my weight for many years. I'd actually been, since probably I was 12 or 13. At 15 years old, I was 15 stone, and at the beginning of this year in January I got onto the scales and I found I was 18 stone 4. So it was time for me to ask for some help from colleagues, which was actually quite hard to do. I find people that come in front of us for those consultations are actually really brave, and after doing the research, that was the one that I found was right for me. Without sounding too contrite about it, it has actually been probably life-changing for me to be able to run around with my 4-year-old and fit in the slide, not asked for an extender on the EasyJet flight when I fly backwards and forwards. Are some really practical, personal things that I did. So it was very personal. You've got to be in the right place in your mind to get there. It took me a while to get there, but I wouldn't change it.
Do they work for everybody?
That's a really great question. So everybody has different responses. I did have one lady who, because so far I used to say that I had, it's worked for everyone that I've prescribed it for, with varying degrees of success. I had one lady who was quite resistant to the dose until it got quite high, but it has worked for everyone that we've prescribed it for. But I think there's a couple of things which people have shared with me in consultations, which they had said I can share. Which I think are quite personal. So somebody described it to me like being on an e-bike. You still have to do the hard work, but when you're struggling maybe to get up Governor's Hill, it makes you able to complete the last little bit. But one of the most powerful things that was left with me was a lady who said to me, when you're on the medication, it's the difference between can't and want. And I went, talk me through that. I don't understand that. And she said, well, I'm on a diet, traditional diet. I can't have something. With this, what I would do, say my partner brings home fish and chips, I can have a little bit and then I don't want any more. And the bit that was really powerful was she said, it's the first thing I've ever done. I don't feel like I'm punishing myself. For those of us that have battled with my weight, that's hugely powerful, actually, Andy.
Okay. What happens when the person on weight loss jabs hits target BMI and target weight? What happens? You come straight off the jab?
Yeah, so we're always quite open within our practice, and you need to check with your prescriber and your practice. But if you look at the data sheet, we're quite open with people. You can come off it. It has a slow washout period. It's gone in about a month. That's what we would sort of say you can stop. Lots of people though are choosing to titrate down. So again, if I use myself as an example, 2.5 milligram for Mounjaro is the lowest dose. 15 is the highest in 2.5 milligram increments. So I'm on a 10 milligram injection, so I could just stop, but hopefully when I reach target weight, probably January, February this year, then I will probably do a month on 5 and then step back down.
What was your favourite food in your eating years?
Do you know what my favourite food in my eating is? What a great question. It's still my favourite food in my non-eating years, which is actually, I must admit, you can tell I'm a child of the 1700s and 80s, is a good old-fashioned steak and chips. It's just, it tends to be a slightly smaller steak.
What's going to stop you having a big plate of chips, Nick?
What's going to stop me having? So it's been fascinating because when I come off it, what stops me now is actually I realise that, quite rightly, I was raised by war generation parents and grandparents, and actually growing up in Cornwall, you finish your food, you finish everyone else's food, you never leave anything to waste. And this has taught me to be kind to myself, to actually say I don't need to eat all of those chips. Okay,
what we must stress is if you're considering this, first of all, don't buy it from the internet.
Indeed.
That's point number one, because you don't know what it is, and you simply have to take advice.
Advice, clinical advice is really important in this space. Lots of providers on the island give great clinical advice, but check your provider, check the advice. We're really proud of the team and the way in which we give advice, and that's important. You need to know that you can, if you've got a problem, if something's going on, that you can access somebody that can help you out and give you that advice.
All right, this is Joan, who just says, my husband always tells me if it's antibiotics, I have to finish the course. Yeah. Why do you have to finish a course of antibiotics?
So do you know what? This is a really interesting point, actually. And it's primarily because if you stop taking them too early, the school of thought would be any bugs that are left could be resistant to the antibiotic, and then any antibiotics that's left would have been bathed in that antibiotic. When they grow back, then they're harder to treat. But being really honest, the course length, it used to be a bit of a finger in the air, actually. I spoke to an antimicrobial pharmacist, a lead pharmacist in the UK, and he sort of said, well, it's kind of historic, really. Why a week? Why this? But actually, over the years, there's been some more research in which has changed that now. So you'll notice different presentations have different course lengths. So, for example, uncomplicated urine infection in women tends to be about a 3-day course. Tonsillitis tends to be a 10-day course. Different things with chest infections tend to be 5 or 7-day courses. So it used to be finger in the air, but now it's finish it up, don't let the bugs go back, don't let it more difficult to treat, and then go for it from there.
Okay, so is it the case then that if you do take antibiotics, the bugs, I mean, we make them sound like they're human, that they're clever. Do they get used to the antibiotics and weave their way around them? What happens?
Yeah, so they don't. So antimicrobial resistance is a really, really big thing. It's actually on countries' national risk registers, because if antibiotics stop working, then it affects lots of things, right? So, hip and knee replacements, antibiotics before that, dental infections, lots of different things become problematic. So we just have to use antibiotics sensibly. From our own point of view, if we use them appropriately, then that's right. But the word is appropriate. The more we use, in theory, the more the bugs can get used to them. But that works through populations as well as individuals. So use antibiotics appropriately. Don't ask for them if they don't work.
There used to be a hot word, didn't they? Superbug. That was always around, and the hospital superbug and what have you. And you mentioned that if antibiotics stop working, I mean that is a genuine threat, isn't it? As you say, to nations.
Yeah. No, it genuinely is. So people used to talk about superbugs. It used to be MRSA back in the day. The methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. But actually, going back to your earlier point about the difference between pneumonia, I went to a really interesting a lecture last year which was about the use of vaccines in preventing bacterial illness. So for example, pneumonia is a bacteria. If you have a vaccine for a bacterial infection, your antibodies are already there, you're fighting it off, you'll never need the antibiotics, you'll never need to have it prescribed, so therefore you won't get the resistance. So the attack on antimicrobial resistance is multifaceted, so from vaccination through to appropriate use, through to farming, through to all sorts of things. It's a huge and important things that we need to treat antibiotics with care.
Okay, all right, let's get to the lines. I think we got Julian with us now. Hi, Julian, you're live with Nick Kaye.
Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Hi, Nick. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thank you for asking. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Good. Just a quick one for you. As of 5 days ago, all large food producers are mandated to include folic acid enrichment in their flour. This is under the new UK bread and flour regulations, and it's going to include white bread and rolls, biscuits, cakes, pastries, croissants, pasta, noodles made from standard wheat flour, ready meals, pizza bases, crackers, and I think already 90% of breakfast cereals are already fortified with folic acid. How will anyone know if they're overdosing on folic acid, especially perhaps pregnant women who are already supplementing? Yeah. And particularly over the Christmas period, where people are eating more cakes and pastries and mince pies, etc.
Okay, Nick.
Yeah, no, so I think that's a really specific question, Julian, and a really interesting question. So obviously folic acid being one of those things, as you say, that's an essential vitamin, so body can't create it. You have to take it in from supplementation outside, which is why some of this supplementation, as I understand it, has come in. And again, with pregnancy, doses are high because of, to protect from spinal bifida and neural tube defects. So I think as well, the tolerance level, what I was always called the therapeutic window for that type of thing, is quite high. So I think overdosing would have to be quite extreme, I would say. It wouldn't be something I would be overly worried about. I think something to be aware of, but like I say, I think the consumption of enough to push you into an overdose or toxic position would be quite challenging, quite difficult to achieve. Maybe that's my point on the Monjaro. I certainly wouldn't get there, but I think it would be quite hard to ingest the amount to push it into a toxic level. Would be my first view, but I'll always double check with what you're eating and what you're putting in your system.
Yeah, I know folic acid is a synthetic version, isn't it? And I understand that almost half of the population has a gene problem that makes it difficult for it to be metabolized. Just an anecdotal thing, a friend's daughter gave birth recently, and the baby is fine, except that it has a lip tie where the upper frenulum inside the upper lip is too tight, making it difficult for breastfeeding. And the midwife said that's from folic acid because the mother had folic acid supplementation beforehand. That's
genuine. I mean, that happened. The midwife said that, Julian.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I mean, I've not, as a dad of 5, I've not seen any. Midwife's obviously the expert in that type of thing. I think the benefit for preventing of spina bifida and tubal defects would far out any sort of risk in folic acid supplementation. Breastfeeding is the great support and stuff out there, and the best thing to do, as you say. But it's always with everything in life, Julian. It's always a risk versus benefit, isn't it? And a benefit in that case, I think, would certainly outweigh risk.
Okay, all right. Good to hear from you. Thanks, Julian.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, now, Julian. 21 minutes. I mean, this whole point about, some people call things like that mass medication, but there are, what's it called? Folate deficiency, I think it is, isn't it? That is a problem with many people.
Yeah, it is. And as we quite rightly said, these type of thing is, vitamins tend to be either essential or your body can make them. With folate, it's an essential vitamin, so you have to ingest it. You can't create it.
It's a B vitamin, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and that's and it's essential in all sorts of things things from nerve. Like I say, neural defect prevention in women. It helps with the absorption of iron. It is essential for safe cell function. So, it's one of the things that we do need to take in as people's diets maybe is less varied, less balanced. It's not in the vegetables and things we take them in. Supplementation tends to be there. I think there may be a wider question about diet variation in diet and those other things, which are probably for nutritionists more than me. But I think that supplementation, it's risk versus benefit.
And that's interesting that you talk about varying diet, and that this ties in with Mounjaro and other jabs, in that the food industry has a lot to answer for with trans fats and ultra processed foods and what have you. So how does the consumer, the customer, the person who eats, how do you educate yourself on what's a balanced diet and what's going to be good for you, and what is, like trans fats and ultra processed, ultimately potentially toxic?
Yeah, no, so I think that is part of, again, particularly at the forefront of my mind with those people that we see and myself on the weight loss stuff. And it's good advice for everyone, isn't it, really? Lots of the advice is out there. We know what to do. We know what to have as a balanced diet. We know portions of vegetables that we should have today, but sometimes we're pragmatic and practical, and life gets in the way, right? It's the easiest thing to do is to grab this and grab that. As well, I think there is something around food education as well. I've been involved in health boards in Cornwall and other parts of the UK, and food boxes were given, but people genuinely didn't have the knowledge of how to prepare. So I think that balance is really important, Andy, of getting the knowledge of how to prepare food, how to do it, how to get it right, how to keep it balanced. And like you say, those trans fats, that ultra processed foods are hidden everywhere. So it's right to take stock, take of what you're look at the packaging, see what it is. Whole foods, as the grandson of a farmer in Cornwall, it's farm to plate, right?
Okay. Which prompts me to tell you, by the way, that the St John's Isle of Man Farmers Market's on today in St John's at the Church Hall. It's on till 3 o'clock this afternoon. Fresh Max products are available. Gaz says, since I had the COVID jabs, I seem to be affected much harder by coughs and colds. Does this appear, does it seem from your interaction with customers that our immune system has become weaker than this? Is this psychological? What and this is quite a body of opinion. People say that they've been affected by COVID jabs.
Yeah, so I think there's an interesting point there. So I think the COVID vaccination, obviously, because COVID is a virus like the flu, then that actually does rotate and change as we go through and needs updating sort of annually if you're at the at-risk group or if you want it privately. I think as far as being affected more is concerned, COVID vaccination shouldn't give you that type of additional weakness, for example, within any of that sort of respiratory tract stuff. That's not part of the evidence base that we see. I think everybody, as we get there, be more aware of viruses, more aware of the things that we contract. But COVID vaccination shouldn't cause any additional weakness from other respiratory infections.
This is Sue, who drops a note in just to say, my weight's been the bane of my life. Although I've never been seriously overweight. I'm 71, I have a BMI of 32, and my weight's now mainly belly fat. I'm struggling to control this. Am I too old for weight loss injections?
No. I think, I think our age range for our patients are between 18 and just, 84 4. But I think what I would say is when you're over a certain age, there's a certain thing about BMI, this general advice about not losing so much weight. I know it sounds, quite crude, but actually as bones get a bit more brittle and that kind of stuff, we genuinely need a little bit of padding. So we tend to modify that BMI goal with some specific advice around that. But certainly not too old, certainly not too things. If it's clinically appropriate, take some clinical advice. And BMI of over 30, we could start. Okay,
all right, Sue. But remember, this is not advice for you, Sue. You've got to take proper clinical advice for all this. And talk. Well, of course, Nick is a pharmacist, and we've got to say first we've got to pay tribute to Edwin Kinraid.
Yes.
Edwin, of course, doyen of the pharmacy world.
Indeed.
On the Isle of Man, and he's just stepped down, I understand.
Yeah, so we had a Isle of Man Contractors Association meeting on Tuesday night. Edwin's still on the committee, but after 10 years of chairpersonship has actually decided to step down and step away from that. And actually, I'm really proud of the Contractors Association because we elected our first female chair, which is fantastic. Sarah Johnson, who works in Kinraid, is a pharmacist, but is, I think, going to make an excellent chair as we move forward. But I think all the committee were definitely paying tribute to the work that Edwin's done in sort of getting Services Commission on the Isle of Man, protecting its network, and really fighting within the system to try and promote pharmacy in the way in which it's held and within the decision makers.
Live today with Nick Kaye. Pharmacist Nick is on with us through to 1. If you have any lots of questions we've got to get to. If you want to call 66 13 68.
Drive smarter, drive more reliable, drive a great deal at Mannin Motors. With a superb range of cars for every budget, always available. And if we don't have it, we'll source it. Plus, servicing, valeting and prestige detailing too. Mannin Motors, Richmond Hill, Douglas. Find us on Facebook or call 420 420. That's 420 420. Drive a better bargain at Mannin Motors.
Arbury and Russian parish commissioners are seeking a new part-time clerk. The role is salaried, around 20 hours a week, with flexible working and varied responsibilities. Applicants should know the local parishes, be confident with people, skilled in problem-solving and accounting, and bring motivation, enthusiasm and a sense of humour. For details, call 834 501 or visit the Commissioner's Facebook page. Apply by 5 p.m. on Monday the 22nd of December.
Flu season is here, but never fear, so is the chance to protect yourself. Whether you qualify for a free NHS flu jab or would like a private vaccination for just £20, Kingsley Muti has made it quick and easy to get protected. Visit Kingsley Muti on Facebook or call 625 040. Get your flu jab today with Kingsley Muti.
Celebrate the season at Robinson's. From A&J Butcher's premium cuts for festive feasts to Ross Bakery's irresistible fresh bakes, we bring you the flavours that make Christmas shine. Explore succulent seafood, seasonal local produce, and even real Christmas trees to fill your home with holiday cheer. Don't miss our in-store flower and gift displays, perfect for stunning blooms and thoughtful presents. Robinson's is your trusted destination for quality, freshness, and festive joy. Let the celebrations begin at Robinson's Food Hall, Cool Road, and Robinson's on the Terrace.
At 5:30, you can join me, Marilyn Crellin, for Shacklair.
It's room, give us room to sport. This is the room we wish to resort and repeat our merry rhymes. For remember, good folks, it is the Christmas time.
The characters in The White Boys are really interesting because they vary across the many different scripts that are available in the Isle of Man.
That's all in Shacklair with me, Marilyn Crellin, today at 5:30.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And Nick Kaye is here, the pharmacist. What are Nick's views? This is Steve who just said, what's Nick's views on medical misinformation being spread by unqualified individuals regarding things like mask wearing and vaccines and what have you? What do pharmacists and other medical professionals make of this?
Yeah, so I think that's a really important question, actually, and it goes through lots of things in the world of social media, influencers and opinion, actually. I would always say make sure that you double check and sense check that advice that you're being given. I think advice does change, and it's important to stay up to date with it. Some of the things around, vaccine and vaccine hesitancy, and then seeing, uptakes of things like measles and mumps again in certain populations. Again, I keep going on about it, but as a dad of 5, to watch somebody really suffer in that way is really challenging. So I think it's right that everybody has view, everyone has right to express view, but I think going back to evidence base and really looking at the core source of that evidence, so things that are posted, a trial was, and you find it was 3 people done somewhere bizarrely, whereas actually, what's your key primary source of information is important.
Okay, of course, now with social media, everybody can be an expert, and everybody
Indeed.
can be suddenly on YouTube or what have you, and can talk about that. So.
Yep.
So the important thing is, if somebody voices, first of all, if they say something as though it's fact,
Yep.
you have to, unless they're qualified, you treat it as opinion.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Andy. To treat it as opinion, and then if I'm hoping most people would have somebody that they could trust and go and ask who'd be within that field, a pharmacy GP, whoever that may be, and then go back to the core source of data, find out where they're saying it and why they're saying it, and what that research looks like. Okay,
this is from Hugh, who just said, "Why has my medicine changed brand?"
Medicine brand changing is really interesting. So I think if it's a generic medicine within a brand, we have to be realistic that actually the UK and the Isle of Man then by consequence is one of the worst purchasers of medicine in the OECD countries. We buy medicines cheaper than anywhere else. Medicines are a global commodity. So if I can sell medicine X in France for 10 times the price I can in the UK, where am I going to sell it? So medicine brand and keeping things constant is something that pharmacists do try to do, but actually just sourcing medicines in the UK has been much more challenging over the last 4 or 5 years.
Who purchased them? Are they purchased centrally?
Yeah, no. So what happens is community pharmacies, in hospital they purchase them, the NHS purchases them, but in community pharmacy we purchase them, and then there is a tariff price with which the government will reimburse you. So for example, in the Isle of Man, we're linked to the England and Wales drug tariff. So the government basically tell you how much they're going to pay you for it. And if you can't buy it for that amount of money, tough bananas, and you lose money on it. So it's the community pharmacy contract for medicines purchase is particularly challenging. And pharmacies get paid a couple of months behind. So actually, community pharmacies are actually holding billions of pounds across England, Wales, the Isle of Man for governments in medicines that's already purchased, and you get reimbursed after the event.
Where does Manx Care fit in for you?
For us, so Manx Care, actually, I found a really fascinating organisation, and actually I've been fortunate enough to see senior leadership across healthcare systems in my national role as the immediate past chair of the NPA at national level within Cornwall Systems, and I would say that the senior leadership in Manx Care are actually one of the best set of senior leaders I have seen, and actually are really keen to engage with the people that are providing care. My wish would be that they would then see pharmacy as a key provider and partner in primary care and healthcare moving forward. And I actually think that they will. So where do they fit in for us as pharmacies? They hold our contract, they deal with our payment, they decide what services we can do. But I'm hoping that they will take community pharmacy on their strategic direction over the next couple of years.
Liz has said, "I went to see my GP regarding," this is true, "itchy legs," and she said I was dehydrated.
Okay.
At this time of year, is dehydration a problem?
So do you know what? Oddly, it really is. So we've been, as pharmacists practicing, we've had things like minor ailment scheme where we can treat for urinary tract infections. And oddly, you see a real uptick primarily this time of year, maybe a little bit earlier in the year, as people sort of, move into, heating goes on. You're in cars that are heated. You put on a scarf and coat, but maybe it's not as cold as it maybe is today outside. So actually, in the autumn months, dehydration does become a real problem, actually, and leads not only to things like skin conditions and feeling tired and headache, but we do see an uptick in things like urinary tract infections, which I find fascinating.
And Alan said, we're talking of UTIs. Alan said as well, I recently suffered, earlier on this year, suffered from a UTI, and I didn't know how painful it could be, and also the consequences from UTIs.
Yeah, so urinary tract infections can be really challenging and difficult to treat. More common in ladies than they are in men, but they can be, normally they can be treated if caught well, treated normally with antibiotics. But if they become a little bit resistant, then they can become quite challenging to treat. Antibiotic courses can go on, rotation of antibiotics culture and sensitivity and urine samples to be sent off to get the antibiotic treatment right. So we use the term uncomplicated UTI, and then it moves on to be a little bit more difficult. You can get into kidney infections and all sorts of stuff. They tend to be a bit more challenging. Yeah.
Okay. Cystitis is a UTI, is it?
Yeah, so cystitis, anything that ends in itis means inflammation of. So cystitis primarily can be a type of urinary tract infection. Doesn't always need antibiotics, normal just cystitis without some associated symptoms. So sometimes those can be treated by flushing well, some of the stuff over the counter. But yeah, it's always better to double check. Your healthcare professional will be able to differentiate them between.
But thrush isn't a
UTI. So thrush is whereas isn't a urinary tract infection. Thrush is a yeast infection, fungal infection, and thrush actually can affect mouth, vagina, other parts of the body. So again, good treatments available over the counter, but often right to double check. And the reason that quite often we link the two together is that after a course of antibiotics, then you can sometimes get thrush as well. So you sometimes end up treating the UTI with some antibiotics. And ending up with thrush. So again, and thrush can happen men and women the same. So again, good treatments available over the counter. Seek the advice.
Which brings me on. Well, it's a perfect lead-in really to the Isle of Man Community Pharmacist, the minor ailment scheme, which is mean you can basically go to your community pharmacy with a whole range of things. Actually, things like UTIs and thrush, and shingles as well. A lot of shingles around nowadays.
Yeah, no. So, and again, it's something that we can cheat and recognise. Actually, in pharmacy, skin rashes and things are the types of things that we do sort of see and go, well, actually, these are things that we can treat and identify. And I think the minor ailment scheme that is commissioned via Manx Care and community pharmacies here on the island is actually a really good scheme. But I think as we move forward into next year, I think there's an ambition to mimic some of the ways in which England have embraced other conditions for more sort of prescription-only treatment. So I think I'd be really hopeful in the sort of the beginning part of next year, there'll be even more conditions, maybe throat infections, other things that you would be able to see the pharmacist for, because in every healthcare situation, it's about seeing the right person at the right time. So,
and shingles is chickenpox, isn't it? Adult chickenpox.
Yeah, well, so it's the same type of virus. So herpes can cause shingles, cold sores, that type of stuff. And again, the thing with the shingles virus is, it's really, really painful. But you can get good treatment for it, antiviral treatment. But the thing that with it is that treatment is most effective if it's started within a certain time frame. So any doubts, then obviously get the rash looked at, and one of the main features of it is because it lives in nerve endings, it hurts. So rashes that are painful are a little bit unusual if you've not knocked and bumped yourself, so worthwhile getting checked out.
Right, Nick is here with us through till 1 o'clock today, and do the first response nasal sprays really stop a cold in its tracks, says Mary?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, given that one of the primary ones used to be and is made on the Isle of Man, right? So others are available, but part of the Isle of Man manufacturing things. So Nasalies, I think, is a Isle of Man product. So they do act as a barrier. There is evidence to show that they can help, and I think the thing about it would be frequent application of it. So again, it would be a case of getting that coating, protecting the lining inside. There is some evidence to show that those type of products do work, but before you get poorly is best time, although you can use it when you are poorly, and the frequent application makes it helpful.
Talking of buying stuff over the internet, from Barry, do you need a medical examination before you take Viagra? Is it available over the counter?
Both Viagra and Cialis are available over the counter, which are the two treatments for erectile dysfunction. In fact, I've just been involved in writing a paper to help it get it launched in Australia, which Cialis isn't available over the counter over there. So both are available. There will be some questions that the pharmacist will have to ask. So it's only available through pharmacies, and again, most pharmacies will have a private consultation room. So it's one of the things, depending on that, don't be frightened of going to ask, but don't be frightened of asking for a consultation as well.
Okay. And I'll put this gently, overdosing on Viagra, is it possible to take too much?
Yeah, so Viagra's fascinating as a medicine, actually, because it was originally designed to dilate blood vessels to the heart, and then they went, okay, it's dilating blood vessels in other places, we can market that. And it is still used in things, like in heart conditions in children, oddly. But, the thing that it is if you take too much, then you can get very vascular headache, a throbbing headache. You can also get a lowering of blood pressure. So, yeah, taking too much isn't great. rate, you can feel really quite unwell.
Nick Kaye is here through till 1. Still got a few lines left if you want to call 66 13 68.
Merry Christmas from everyone at Hopkins School.
Mrs. Claus here. As Santa's busy, I'm going to decorate the grotto ready for Christmas. And I hear that Ramsey Garden Centre is full of festive goodies, decorations, lights, gifts, even Christmas trees. Ramsey Garden Centre opens 7 days a week on Albert Road.
Visit the New Look Cafe Villa and sample the new menu. With disabled parking right outside the door, Cafe Villa is the perfect spot to park up for hearty breakfasts, pancakes, baked potatoes, delicious mains, award-winning ice cream and much more. Using local produce where possible and supporting local producers. With seating inside and out and a stunning sea view. It's a relaxing spot. New look, new menu. That's Cafe Villa on Douglas Prom. Open 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. With easy disabled parking spaces at the front entrance.
Walton's for electricals. Great service, great price, and stock to go.
For everything electrical for your home, it has to be Walton's. At Walton's Electrical, we have a huge stock of ready-to-go items at incredible prices. Open Monday to Saturday, 9 till 5 on the Isle of Man Business Park, Bradham. Find us online at waltons.im and follow us on Facebook for our latest offers.
Walton's for electricals. Great service, great price, and stock to go.
The Moor Vannin offshore wind farm isn't just about secure, renewable energy, it's a catalyst for growth. From supply chains to skilled jobs, it will help grow the Isle of Man economy. Explore the opportunities at orsted.im.
Sure Christmas ad, take one.
This Christmas, you can get a real good present from Shore. Because right now, if you bundle your mobile and broadband plans together, you can save hundreds of pounds. Hey, and you also get an M&S voucher up to £200.
Great. But actually the script says in an elfish voice.
Make sure of your Christmas, in-store or online at shore.com. T's and C's apply.
Thank you very much. Oh, yeah.
Are you a small charity here on the Isle of Man? Are you looking for volunteers, hoping to raise awareness and chasing those crucial pounds and pennies to support your work? Well, Manx Radio can help. You could be our next 1 to 3 Charity of the Week. With daily on-air coverage, podcast and social media promotion, we can help support you and those you help. Just email the numbers 123@manxradio.com and listen out for the feature each weekday between 1 and 3 p.m. The Charity of the Week, brought to you by Kell Properties.
The Mannin Line with Andy Witt.
And Nick Kaye, the pharmacist, is here. Macy is with us now. Hello, Macy.
Oh, hello, Andy. Hello, Nick. I just wanted to ask, in the summer, I went down to my local pharmacy. I was doing a 2-week diary for blood pressure, and I wasn't sure whether my monitor was working properly. So I went down and I asked if they could take my blood pressure to give me an idea. And I was told that the pharmacies now are not allowed to take blood pressures, and that's what Manx Care had directed. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think that's a really important question. So I think, you'd have to be confident on both the kit and the things that you would have. So I know different pharmacies offer different things, and across there is actually a blood pressure service, actually. So if you're over 40, I think 42 in England, you can actually go and get your blood pressure monitored, and also get a 24-hour blood pressure monitor as well. So I think it would be the difference between what people would do with that data and how it was collated. I know, for example, we do 24-hour blood pressure monitoring should people want it. So I think it wouldn't necessarily be a Manx Care directive, but I think maybe the pharmacy would be sort of saying, they may want to do the GP practice or something, may want to do the blood pressures again. So I think individual providers will have individual sort of rules around it.
What did you do? What did you do, Maisie?
Well, I bought in the end a new blood pressure monitor, and my old one was okay. It was very similar, but I was just taken aback because, if I'm correct, I know that some time ago I've got a nursing background, and I knew that pharmacists were allowed to to do a blood pressure. Just as maybe opportunistic or, for primary health care needs. So I was just, as I say, taken aback because when I was told that Manx Care don't allow the pharmacists now to take blood pressures, so I thought I would just clarify that.
Yeah, so I think it's an important question to ask, but I don't think I've seen anything directed from Manx Care that we couldn't do that. It may be that some other practices may want that work done, so maybe duplication of work, but yeah.
How are you feeling now, Macy?
Yeah. I'm fine, thank you, Andy. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
All right, thanks for calling today. Here's Vivian now. Hello, Vivian.
Hello, Andy. Can I talk to Nick,
yeah,
please?
He's on the line
Hi
with
there.
you.
Hi, Vivian.
Hello. This might sound a very strange question, but what's your views on taking cannabis for aches and pains and all the rest of it?
Is this medicinal or recreational?
Medicinal.
Thanks for the clarification, Andy. So I have an interest in this as well. So I've actually done additional training to be a prescriber in medical cannabis. I think it actually does have some really good properties. I think that it's right to take medical cannabis as a holistic product. So I don't think we should necessarily jump to medical cannabis as the be-all and end-all of everything. But I think if it's given within a complete package of care, I've certainly seen some really useful benefits for it. I've seen people that have been struggling to have some sleep. I've been seeing people that have struggled with aches and pains. And interestingly, there's stuff around some injections with a cannabis derivative used for the nausea induced by chemotherapy. So I think it has a place, but I think it should be treated as part of a total holistic package of care rather than just
Well, when I was
thing.
at the doctor or at the health place last night,
yes,
I did say to the person taking it, what's your views on cannabis? And she said, I don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
So that's why I just thought you seem to be very knowledgeable. I would just ask the question.
Yeah, so I think having done that additional sort of training, I am what we call an independent prescriber. I've been able to write prescriptions, having done additional qualifications as a pharmacist for about 5 years, and then having done the cannabis training about a year and a bit ago. I think it does have a place, but as with everything we've been saying today, it needs to be done, in the right clinical environment with someone that understands the entire picture of the person being prescribed.
I'm not disagreeing with you there, but I just thought I would ask your opinion on it.
No,
okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Vivian. Thanks for that. Andy dropped a note in. Andy on 075. I'm on omeprazole, is it?
Yes.
And I've been on it for several years. Every time I go for a medical checkup at the GP, they say we'll put you on it for another year. I've got a hiatus hernia and I'm worried about the long-term effects.
Yeah. So omeprazole is a medicine that reduces the amount of acids that's produced in the stomach. At one point, it was the highest prescribed medication in the NHS by volume back across. Relatively safe as a long-term medicine. The way in which, when I used to work in general practice, is again, you've got to base it on all the controls that are there. But if you've got the hiatus hernia, it's not being treated, then you need to probably continue with it. Occasionally, I've advised people to sort of stop it, see if you get the heartburn, restart it, take it as and when. But again, all of that advice needs to be done with the person doing the prescription who's got the full clinical history. But again, it's not an unfair question to ask. Could I take this as and when?
What's the score with driving when using prescribed cannabis? This is WhatsApp 437.
Yeah, so lots of stuff is out there around the cannabis. It's the same actually as any medicine that's prescribed that causes drowsiness. So, whether or not you take painkillers for cocodamols or whatever it may be that causes the drowsiness, there is a thing about it being you have to judge your drowsiness, but actually, if you then cause an accident, you could still be problematic for you. So the advice is the same with all prescribed medicines that cause drowsiness. Be aware of it, but that isn't what I would say a card which says if something happens that you're there because something's happened. They could say, well, your judgment was wrong. So just be really careful.
Claire dropped a note in just to say, could you ask Nick about restless leg? My husband has it and always starts at night.
Yeah, so RSL. So restless leg syndrome is something that is relatively uncommon but can be really, really distressing. I would have a chat with a general practitioner. There are treatments for it. Low-dose medicines that are sometimes used for things like Parkinson's and stuff can actually be used to help with restless leg syndrome. But it is something that can be quite frustrating for both the person and the person sleeping next to you. So there are things out there. Have a chat with the GP.
And Jeff dropped a note in just to say, does the minor ailment scheme cover gout?
Yeah, it's still listed to cover gout. Yeah.
This time of year, of course, that's stay off the port.
Yeah,
That's the
absolutely. Red wine and tyramine. Yeah.
So is gout undulant? Does it come back and come and go?
Yeah. So gout is obviously the formation of uric acid crystals within the joints, primarily the big toes, but it can be in all sorts of other places. I've seen it in fingers and hands and all that kind of stuff. Treatment tends to be two-phase. One is either something that gets you through the acute phase, which tends to be something like colchicine or steroids that help the inflammation and break up the crystals. And then after that, if you get it for a while, then you can have a medicine that you take every day that stops it coming back. But really importantly, you can't start taking that medicine in an acute attack, or else it makes it much, much worse. So again, yes, it does, but take some advice on the best treatment for you at that time.
I have a pal who has it occasionally. He says it's hell on earth.
It's absolutely horrendous. Yeah.
So, what's your advice then? If somebody has got it, can you mitigate actually getting it, or will it just come back, come what may?
Yeah, so you can mitigate it. So dehydration, as we mentioned earlier, it's actually a big cause because it's the uric acid crystals, the things that are in urine actually crystallizing out within the joints. So if you keep them in good solution and keep drinking plenty of clear fluid, it can help. And things that are rich in tyramine, food bases. So as you suggested, the port, the red wine, the steak, those types of things can promote the formation of gout. So yeah, just a bit of sensibleness. See what that looks like. But again, if you get it recurrently and often, there are medications that you can take every day to stop it forming.
What happens if you get a phone call from somebody saying, it says take 2 a day and I've taken 8 for some reason?
It depends what it is, isn't it?
If you've taken too much, what do you do?
Yeah, so it's more common than you would think, actually. So I think in that situation, if you're worried about it, it's just get advice as quickly as you can. Some medications it will matter, some it won't matter. And if it says take 1 a day and you've taken 8, it's probably a 999 call, to be honest. If you've taken maybe 1 at the wrong time or maybe 2 or something like that, then pharmacy can be a good place to get that.
Well, that was a good point, because Barbara said, I have a... Maybe I shouldn't have said your name, Barbara. She said, I've got a problem with my mother. Yeah. She can't remember to take her medications. How do I do that? Yeah. How do I make sure without treating her like a child?
Yeah, no, so that's really, really great question. In the Isle of Man, which is actually, I think, one of the unique services that are commissioned by Manx Care, is that you can still get what I would call monitored dosage systems from pharmacies if GP says it's appropriate. So, even with those little aids, they're not perfect, but you'll be able to see whether or not mum's been taking the meds, taking them at the right time. And there is evidence that shows those things can help people take medicines at the right time and stop them going into hospitals and stuff, and reduce medication errors. So Manx Care
it's quite a problem, isn't it? Particularly older people.
Completely. And again, when we get into things like polypharmacy, lots of medicines. I was checking a blister pack this morning, which in the morning had 11 medication. Right, so it's not surprised that people get a bit confused, which is why some of these aids can really be helpful.
What happens if you stop taking a medication suddenly?
Yeah, so it really depends on the medication and what it's for. So again, some can be really, really serious, right? So if you're taking something to prevent something like epilepsy or something like that, you get a recurrence of whatever you're taking it for comes back, would be the simple answer to whatever that medicine is, with various degrees of risk and harm within that.
Right, we're at that time of year when obviously people are off. There are holidays happening here, there, and everywhere. Just tell me, put the matrix in place. You've got pharmacists, you've got meds, you've got GPs, you've got ED and nobles. What does the pharmacist do?
Yeah, so I think where pharmacy is, if you look at some of the wording from across, they call the scheme that they've got, which hopefully the Isle of Man will be introducing soon, is pharmacy first. And that's because they want pharmacy to be the first place for things like, snots, grots, all those types of things, but also things like blood pressure, forgotten medication, all that kind of stuff. So I think what pharmacies do is they fit in really well as a triage place of going, actually, we can help you or we can't. Community pharmacy pharmacies are really good with that. And I think it's about accessing the right care at the right place at the right time for the right person, because you don't want people either in meds or at Nobles that could be treated in the pharmacy, because it's going to take longer for the people that are really poorly to be seen. So we use the word minor ailments, minor coughs and colds, minor stuff, but ring pharmacy. Pharmacists and their teams are highly qualified in deciding where you can go, and also really good at navigating you through the system of what's open and what's not.
Okay, well, some people may say it's minor to them, but it's major to me.
Exactly. So again, things like, as your caller described, a urinary tract infection, we may class as minor, but can be really uncomfortable. So I would, check the list of the things that we can do. But pharmacy is a great first port of call for first advice.
Okay. What are you doing over Christmas, Nick? Are you here, there and everywhere? Are you on call?
No, so I am doing some over Christmas. Thank you for reminding me. So I'm spending some time with family and got a couple of days off, and then I'm back in the pharmacy doing shifts on the 27th, and again the bit in between Christmas and New Year. And yeah, the pharmacy teams will be around and about supporting you. And you know what, Andy? I think I might go for that. Steak and chips and a glass of red. Why not?
All right. Well, thanks for being with us today. We appreciate it, Nick. Thanks for being with us. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you, and to you.
See you in 2026. Thanks to Nick Kaye from Kingsley Muti today. You want to follow up, by the way, the answer phone's always on 682-631, or you can email manninline@manxradio.com. Final Mannin Line of the year tomorrow, and it's an open line. Any thoughts on your mind? Text, email, call and WhatsApp. In the meantime, if you're listening halfway around the world, lots of people listen to the Mannin Line podcast. You can get them by going to manxradio.com or your podcast provider. And if you're listening somewhere around the world at any time of day or night, thank you for choosing to listen to the Manx Radio podcast. Thanks to Chris on the phones today. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.